All right, first up, let me say this. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised that the NBA is investigating some potential alleged shenanigans. Some of you might call them schlananigans, if you follow me on Twitter, as you should. Going on around some of these sign and trade deals, specifically the one involving the Heat and Raptors with Kyle Lowry, and the one involving the Pelicans and the Bulls with Lonzo Ball. I'm somewhat surprised, but not totally. Like, you had some of these shenanigans be investigated last year with the Bogdanovich situation with the Kings and the Bucks, which ultimately led to Bogdanovich not going there after all, and the Bucks having to secede or give up a second-round pick, if you will. So, not surprised. Talking about framework of this stuff being set up before the actual time where you can actually do it, blah, 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 blah. Like, let's stop being naive about this. It certainly happens. Wouldn't be surprising that it even happened in these two cases. Not in the least bit. Like, let's stop being fucking naive about it. Same thing when you talk about free agency in this sport, or you talk about MLB, or you talk about the NFL, and you see guys have come to agreements on deals 2 minutes after the damn deadline has, the damn starting period has begun, the negotiating window has begun. What a crock of shit that is. Like, you already know what's what. You already know what's up. Like, you really think these deals are getting hammered out and all the details are being solved for in a minute and a half? Give me an effing break. Like, yeah, you have rules, but that doesn't mean those rules are being followed. Now, in terms of this for the Bulls, that's where my focus is. Like, here's what I don't get. Would it be any different if they had just outright signed Lonzo Ball and announced the deal 5 minutes after free agency began? Like, if you said 5 minutes after 6 p.m. on Monday, they just said they were going to sign him to a 4-year, $85 million contract. There was no sign, trade, no anything else. That's just the end of it. Would that be getting investigated at all? Serious question. Because to me, that seems all the bit of suspicious as it would be to say, hey, 30 minutes or an hour into the actual start of the free agency window, you've got a sign and trade deal worked out. I don't see why one looks that much more suspicious than the other, so what the fuck is the difference here? Furthermore, you don't think this is happening in other places? You don't think this happens with the majority of these trades, the majority of these signing trades, the majority of these free agent signings? Of course they fucking do. Do I think it was horse shit last year when the Bucks had to give up a second-round pick? Yeah, they're just doing what everybody else is doing. That's not a great excuse. That's not a great reason. But it is a valid one nonetheless. I think my bigger problem with this is the inconsistency or the selective enforcement of this. And I'm going to point to one notable example. You probably already figure out where I'm fucking going here. So, the Kyle Lowry sign and trade deal is a problem and worth investigating. The Chicago Bulls Lonzo Ball sign and trade deal is apparently questionable, worth investigating. But the Russell Westbrook to the Lakers deal, which involves Anthony Davis and the real general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers, fuck a Rob Pelinka. There are two general managers of the goddamn Los Angeles Lakers. It's fucking LeBron James and Rich Paul. And if you actually think Rob Pelinka is the general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers, other than in official title only, you're a clown. Flat out clown school shit. It's Rich Paul and LeBron James. They are the big dick swingers. They are the decision makers, the shot callers, big ballers that truly run the shit now in the Lakers organization. Starting to run more and more shit in the league. You get these reports coming out about how AD and LeBron had talked about whether or not they thought Russell Westbrook would be a good fit and if they could play with him, if they could win a championship with him, including the front office asking those questions. And you got AD and LeBron apparently meeting up with Russell Westbrook weeks ago to talk about the potential chance of him coming to the Los Angeles Lakers and getting the hell out of Washington. You got Russell Westbrook requesting a trade out of Washington, and then bam, won't you know, oh, first fucking night of free agency, here's the big Russell Westbrook deal. Well, excuse the fuck out of me. If the Kyle Lowry sign-in trade stinks, if the Lonzo Ball Chicago Bulls sign-in trade deal smells, then what the hell would you call this fucking sewer of a dumpster of a Russell Westbrook Los Angeles Lakers deal? At the end of the day, I don't give a shit if they did this and da-da-da. Like, the deal was going to happen one way or another, so be it. Who really gives a crap? It shouldn't be worth that much attention or focus on. But we're treating these situations entirely different, and that's hypocritical, and that absolutely should be flagged. That absolutely should be fucking talked about. Because you're saying on the one hand that these front office guys can't do any backroom negotiations or unofficial talks, but players can, especially players with the type of political power and sway within their organization, their team, and the league as a whole, like frickin' LeBron James. So should teams just be sitting there and saying, hey, we're going to hire a puppet as a general manager, but our star player is actually going to be the real general manager, and he can go out there and recruit players at the Olympics or in the offseason or during the playoffs or any other number of things, but we're not going to get flagged for it. We're not going to get the bullshit flag thrown up for it. We're not going to sit there and get any tampering investigations because it's the players, and the players are going to talk amongst themselves and all this other crap, and that's bullshit. If you think the Lonzo Ball, Chicago, New Orleans sign-in trade deal stinks, that there was tampering there, you're probably right. Let's be clear. You're absolutely right. You freaking know you are. Now, you want to take an honest look back and say, this was a reported thing that was going to happen at the trade deadline back in February. It didn't happen then. So in theory, you could argue these teams had the parameters on a deal like this waiting in the wings for 5 months. And couldn't have even talked about it back then. If teams are able to openly negotiate for trades of players during the season, then what the hell is so fundamentally different here? You know what I mean? Especially in that case, it would certainly make sense that they had the parameters of the deal like this worked out in February. Whether you like that or not, that's just the reality. For Lowry, the whole thing, you know, it's funny, wasn't it Pat Riley? I thought that one of the ones that complained to the league office about the Bucks and the Bogdanovich deal. You know, but now his team's caught up in it. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, you talk about the Miami Heat. You know, if you want to talk about anything stunk in the past, it's talking about Bosh and LeBron going down to play with Wade down in Miami. Like, I was tampering. Wade was sitting there actively recruiting LeBron and Bosh in the months leading up to it. They talked about it in the previous Olympics, for God's sakes. All 3 of them. They were in cahoots on this. How is that so fundamentally damn different? And yet somehow, for these 2 deals, or again, let's be clear, there surely was shit being talked about beforehand. There certainly was backroom dealing. You know all of that. My problem with it is, if you're going to look at these, then you damn sure better investigate the marquee franchise in the Lakers with your unassailable, unapproachable top star in LeBron James. That's just effed up. Absolutely effed up. Whereas the Bulls in this whole thing with Lonzo Ball basically came into being at the same frickin' time you're talking about the Russell Westbrook deal to the Lakers. And I know there was no sign and trade, but technically he was already under contract. He already able to make the trade. And maybe you're trying to say the sign and trade dynamic is what makes it a little bit different here. And maybe it does. But at the end of the day, does it really fucking matter? But if we're going to talk about tampering and we're going to talk about things that need to be investigated, if these need to be investigated, then so does this. Can't you have one set of rules for LeBron and Rich Paul and one set of rules entirely different for everybody damn else? That's bullshit. I hope, for the Bulls, like if they get stripped of a future pick or whatever, so be it. I certainly hope it doesn't raise to the point of you're going to end up striking this deal out. Or you're going to say, hey, you have to change the parameters of the structure of the deal. Like, what the fuck's the point there? Then maybe Lonzo will just sign with them openly in free agency anyways. You figure it out later. But, sorry. Like, bullshit. If the Kyle Lowry Miami Heat deal is dirty, if the Lonzo Ball Chicago Bulls deal is dirty, then that Russell Westbrook Los Angeles Lakers trade most certainly the hell damn is dirty.